Hey there, how are you today? My name is Dana Damara, and you have landed on Astrocast. This is a special forecast for the full moon in Libra. Full moon in Libra happens this week, April 16th at 11:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Full moon happens every 28 days, right in between our new moon cycles. And this full moon in particular happens in the sign of Libra. So that means the sun is in Aries. So when we have a full moon, the sun and the moon are completely opposite one another in the skies. And this is the way the moon actually becomes illuminated, right? Is by the sun. So when we have full moons in particular, it's that space in between our new moon, right? So it's pretty much directly in between one new moon and then the next new moon. So it's this important time in the moon phase where we're offered opportunities to celebrate our accomplishments of our intentions from the last new moon. It also offers us opportunities to be a little bit more clear and release the things that are stagnant or in our way. And full moons have a tendency to be a little bit intense, regardless of what sign they're in. But every single time we have these full moons, they'll come up in a different sign, right? So some people will say, gosh, that full moon, I felt amazing. I slept so good. And then a person right in the same room experiencing the same full moon may say, oh my gosh, not me, completely opposite. This is because the moon is hitting their chart. This energy around the full moon is hitting their birth chart a little bit differently than the person next to them, right? And I believe that our astrological charts are a beautiful blueprint of what was going on in the sky when we were born. It also gives a huge blueprint, a very accurate blueprint on the essence of who you are. It outlines karma, potential karma, it outlines potential paths, it outlines our potential dharma, and we always have to remember that we have choice. So we have all these opportunities in life and all these astrological events that happen in our life, but we have choice. So we have the ability to say, I'm going to learn this lesson now. I'm going to pause on this one. Okay, this one's coming up for review if we're paying attention, right? Or even if we're not. So basically, when we have a full moon, it's an opportunity to really take a deeper gaze inside. So this full moon in particular is pretty intense. The sign of Libra is about relationships and finding our harmonic balance in relationships. And when we say relationships, the first thing most people think of is relationships outside of ourselves, which is true. But I want you to remember that any relationship that you have outside of yourself is actually a reflection of the relationship that you're having with your own self. And conversely, the relationship that you have with yourself shows up in all the relationships that you have outside of yourself. I know that sounds like a little oxymoron, could be playing a little game, but I'm not playing a game. It's really true. So be mindful. Well, first, let me say this. My humble personal belief is that our sweet planet and the universe has been trying to find a balance between the divine feminine and the sacred masculine for years. And we've been ruled by this masculine way of being, this push, 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 not male, female, masculine, feminine. It's a different thing. And so we have this overarching, global, universal, collective field, right? Trying to create balance. So energetically, everything is trying to find a balance. And so what that's going to create is a ripple effect on all of us, both individually, globally, nationally, in your cities, in your communities, right? And we've seen that. We've absolutely seen that as things start to shift, right? And so this full moon is really about maybe, okay, looking at the imbalances outside in the world, but technically taking a big, deep peek into the relationships that you are holding in your heart, and relationships to other people, other things, other experiences. But, think about relationship too as in a broader perspective. What's your relationship to, say, media? What's your relationship to food? What's your relationship to alcohol? What's your relationship to addictive personality traits? What's your relationship to everything? Like, we have relationships with everything. It's how we relate in our day, right? So take a look at the relationship maybe you have with belief systems in your own self. Take a look at relationships you have with your ancestry. Take a look at relationships you have with patterns that you've created for yourself that maybe kept you safe and secure for a while, and now they're just kind of holding you back, that kind of thing. And again, these will show up in people and the relationships that you have with people. So just paying special attention, understand that this entire full moon is really about creating a harmonic balance. And when I first started studying astrology, I was like, oh, Libras, they're all about balance. They love balance. And my friend Jen Wayne, who's also an astrologist, she was like, oh, no, Dana. Libras are not balanced. They're always looking for balance. They're always trying to tip the scales and find that sense of balance, right? So keep in mind that this is an inside job, and look at where you're out of balance. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen because I feel like if I keep talking, I'm gonna go off on a tangent, and I want to share my screen with you. So this is what the full moon looks like when we experience it. It will be April 16th. My apologies if I said 15th earlier. April 16th at 11:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you look here, you've got the sun in Aries, you've got the moon down in Libra. There's a couple transits I want to talk about that are affecting this full moon. And the biggest one I want to talk about is how it is squaring Pluto in Capricorn. Now, when I suggest the idea of looking at relationships and finding balance, I would invite you to ask yourself, like, what relationships are serving me? Which ones are not? Which ones, where am I putting my focus? Where am I distracting myself? Who am I distracting myself with, right? Well, what am I doing in my life that is keeping me from focusing on that higher vibratory frequency? Because when Pluto squares both the sun and the moon, and by the way, it's an exact square. Pluto's in Capricorn, 28 degrees. It's going to go into retrograde on the 29th of April, which is really unfortunate because it's almost in Aquarius. And I just want Pluto to get into Aquarius, like get into Aquarius, but it's not quite ready. We have some more lessons to learn, honestly. Pluto is about transformation. It's about empowerment. It's about inner transformation, that stoking that inner fire to learn lessons. And it can be a little uncomfortable, honestly. I mean, Pluto is this teeny tiny little planet, and Pluto really holds a lot of power. And I would say that is the same thing for you, right? Like, we're just a little dust speck on the planet, and yet we hold so much power in our little pinky finger. And I think we forget about that. So when we look at Pluto squaring both the sun and the moon, it creates a T square. And so it's going to put transformation and empowerment into action. Like, if you've been kind of like hiding out or shoving things under the rug, or like, I'll deal with that later, Pluto's going to go, God, sis, the time's now. No more screwing around. I'm kind of over it. I'm getting ready to go into Aquarius. And before I go into Aquarius, I really want you to deal with your shit. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's very true, because Pluto wants nothing more than for you to feel empowered and for you to feel like you're up leveling your life. It can bring, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it can bring some tests and some challenges, and maybe a little bit of intensity. Pluto's intense. you know, when we experienced the pandemic in March of 2020, it was Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all sitting there together. So, you know, Pluto's a little guy, but Pluto really has a lot of power, and Pluto really wants you to, you know, address your darkest feelings and your habits and the way you react. And Pluto wants you to start eradicating these things. And if you're not, they'll come out. And, you know, the reason why Pluto wants you to do this is so that you can understand that transformation takes place through the release of these emotions, right? So, and I want to say, you know, there's so many modalities. I've been so fortunate to be in this healing industry for years. And I actually feel like sometimes the whole reason I was meant to be in the healing industry was because I needed all of these tools myself, you know. And I mean, talk therapy is one, breath work is hands down amazing, like one of the most powerful things you can do. Yoga, meditation, journaling, anything that brings you to a place of understanding that you are not just this body. In fact, the body is kind of only one of 5 pieces of you. You're just so much more. And Pluto wants you to transform and remember those things. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen again, just so that I can make sure I'm not missing anything. Be super mindful of, I'm looking at my notes, be super mindful of what is triggering you during this time, right? So if you're feeling triggered about maybe there's a person or a situation or even a global event, ask yourself, God, why is that triggering me? Instead of going into the old pattern of like gossiping about it or reading like 50 million articles about it online or feeling sad or feeling helpless, you know, like ask yourself, why am I triggered right now? You know, I think that looking into why we feel an emotion or even where we're feeling a certain emotion in the body is so supportive of our healing. And so ask yourself, why am I triggered by that right now? And then gaining awareness around that with the intention of creating healing will help you to evolve, you know. But for those of you who kind of, you know, hold on to stuff and don't really share how you're feeling or, you know, use other destructive or addictive tendencies, this full moon's going to be challenging for you. It's definitely going to be challenging. And I should just preface that by saying it has the potential to be that way. It always has the potential to go either way. But I do want to say, you know, just to be really mindful during this time that it you know, I'll never sugarcoat a full moon. I will say, or a new moon for that matter, but this energy could be slightly intense. Now, there are positive influences that are offsetting, if you will, this energy, which is beautiful. We just had this Jupiter and Neptune conjunction in Pisces that's up here, and they're still sitting there happily together. In this, like, oh my God, here we are, we're in Pisces, we haven't seen each other in 156 years. Oh my God, how you been? You know, Jupiter is the beautiful planet of expansion, and Neptune is about dreams. And so, you know, always remember that Pluto wants you to transform so that you can be your bestest self, right? And so just being mindful of that as you kind of traverse challenging times. Keep your eye on the prize. I said this in the Jupiter Neptune video. Keep your eye on the prize of connection, of oneness, of, you know, this sense of ecstatic bliss, if you will. And then we also have Uranus and Taurus. They're 2 degrees orbit with their conjunction. They're pretty close. It's 2 degrees is pretty darn close. But, you know, Taurus is very grounding. And now we've got Uranus, which is the higher mind thinking, and Mercury, which is the lower mind thinking, really coming together. And so this is, learning how to manage your higher mind and your lower mind, and stepping out of negative, debilitating, ruminating thoughts, and really using practices like meditation, chanting, mantra, to really bring yourself to that higher vibe. Because if you think about, I like to think about Pluto, and I'll relate this to something else too. I like to think about Pluto as saying like, hey, you haven't been paying attention to this pain point. Okay, so I want you to feel into this pain point, and I'm going to make it a little bit challenging for you so that you can release it, because you keep holding on to it. But let's release it so that you can get to these higher frequencies. And when we get to the higher frequencies, it's so much easier to make sense in the mind. Like, is this fear, or is this wisdom? Or is this an old ruminating thought? Or is this, something that I need to pay attention to? But there's pain points, and Pluto brings those pain points to the surface. And it's all because we want to utilize this beautiful energy to create, for lack of a better word, a new world. It's kind of where we're at, guys. I have one more aspect I want to share with you too. Venus and Mars in Pisces. So where is Venus and Mars? Oh, hallelujah. Here's Mars. Yay, 1 degree Pisces, and Venus is sitting there at 12 degrees. I know they're far away, but when we've got Venus and Mars both in Pisces, and they've been there for a little bit, Venus and Mars in Pisces are like, well, it's the divine feminine and sacred masculine, and so they're doing a dance with each other, if you will, trying to remind us all to just stay grounded, love one another, and truly allow yourself to heal. And then remember too, and I say this to a lot of clients, like, ask yourself if like the healing is actually the addiction as well. Because sometimes we get to a point in our lives when we're healing and we're like, well, I can't do this until I'm healed. I can't do that until I'm fully healed. And I mean emotionally, right? Or mentally. And while that's true, in some cases, there's also a beauty in remembering that you're kind of divinely perfect where you are. And we're all healing all the time for our whole life. Life is not a sedentary event. It's not a linear event that goes from stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the middle, just to be clear. It's a event that's a spiral. So we're consistently growing, we're consistently learning, we're consistently expanding our awareness, right? So don't forget, or I should say, remember that you are a perfect human being. You're a perfect soul being on this planet, and everything is perfect, everything. And take care of your side of the street, right? When stuff comes up, work on it, clean it up, and then get back in the game. I don't sit on the sidelines too long. I don't think that's why you were brought here. So I just want to thank you so much again for listening. My name is Dana Tamara. And if you'd like your chart read, your astrological chart, just to see kind of where yours vibes with what's going on in the world, please reach out to me. My website is danadamara.com. You can find me there. And hopefully we'll see you somewhere on this path. Have such a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste. Thank you.